what we've seen out of some recent polling is that 74% of Americans, according to a recent Yale University study, understand that global warming is impacting weather just on that level, on that general level. And we've also seen some indication from polls in the last 2 weeks that voters haven't really made up their minds yet, understand climate change enough possibly to sway them toward the way the president speaks about it. We'll see. So it is there. It's not there in the volume that people who really follow the issue might like. But there's great resistance to talking about it.
Let's look at Governor Romney for starters. Mm-hmm. Has the Republican Party hardened its position on climate change and whether humans are contributing to global warming?
Yes, and it hardened probably more than 10 years ago. It hardened in the first months of the George W. Bush administration, when the administration issued a letter to Congress saying it was not going to seek the regulation of CO2 or legislation to control CO2.
And what does Mitt Romney now say about global warming? He's just not sure how much humans are impacting.
That's correct. That's correct. The most, at least the longest conversation we've seen about climate change in this campaign so far actually came through an organization called Science Debate, which is a sort of grassroots organization of scientists and science communicators and institutions trying to get science-related questions posed to the candidates. And in the governor's response, he did highlight that he's not a scientist, and he sort of moved through the whole question of whether or who or how much to move very quickly into policy, where he argues that just economically it doesn't make sense for Americans to pursue this at all, and particularly at this time.
So don't expect much under a Romney administration on climate change at all?
That's a safe assumption.
And for Barack Obama then, 4 years ago, he did campaign strongly on this, but then during his first term, he took that cap and trade scheme, what we'd call a price on carbon, off the table. Why?
Well, I think he didn't. I think that once he entered office, he did not pursue that goal as forcefully as one might have anticipated given the campaign. Congress took it off the table. Our House of Representatives did pass a cap and trade bill.
But not the Senate.
But not the Senate. And so in 2010, it's the Senate that basically passed on that.
And do you think the president then backed off in terms of pursuing this?
In pursuing it legislatively. And when you look sort of at the political rhetoric at the beginning of the administration, one tool they felt that they had was, okay, Congress, well, if you're not going to act on this, we'll have to do it through just the executive branch. And once the climate legislation did die in the Senate, they in fact pushed through the first mandatory greenhouse gas rules that the United States has had at the federal level. The two major ones were first having to do with cars, and the new mandate that by 2025 cars reach an average fuel efficiency standard of I think it's 54.5 miles per gallon.
And how significant are those measures? I mean, are we talking about a big impact in terms of reducing emissions?
The auto efficiency deal is a very big deal. That's an enormous amount of emissions that are being taken off the table, and with other effects too. Americans, at least at this point, seem to be more motivated by energy independence. Energy security are extremely compelling ideas right now, and reducing the use of gasoline by that much has a considerable effect on what's already a decline in the amount of oil the United States imports.
And if we look forward to, should Barack Obama be re-elected, what can we expect in the next 4 years? I mean, he's mentioned the whole issue of climate change sparingly in this campaign. What could we expect?
I think we've seen that there there's a great willingness to use regulatory methods to do what the executive branch can do by itself. The other major effort from the EPA that deserves merit here is just a new proposed rule on carbon output from large power plants, which basically means you probably are going to have a really hard time building a coal-fired power plant in this country.
Does that limit the amount of emissions a big power plant can generate?
Yeah.
So it is essentially a cap and trade scheme without the trade.
Well,
it's the cap.
It's a rule. It's a cap without the trade. One thing I would watch is that the ninth largest economy in the world, which is California, in November will begin its cap and trade program. The first auction of permits, I think, is soon after the election, coincidentally, and that is a test bed. California has always been a test bed for U.S. environmental law.